for the feed, and we're going to be talking today about taking your tax base with you and how Prop 19 can benefit you when you sell or buy your home. So my name is James Biceri. Those of you who are watching on my personal feed can see that you already know who I am. And this is Chessa Sanders. Chessa's my partner here at Kaleo. We are here to share information with you that will be hopefully helpful if you're 55 or older, or if you are disabled, or if you're a victim of a wildfire or a natural disaster in the state of California. So it's regarding transferring your tax base. So we're going to jump right into things. We're also on a Zoom feed. If you go to our page, I know I don't have the link up right there, but we also are on Zoom, so you can find us there as well. But we'll get right into it. We're going to be talking to you about, and let me make sure I can see myself, so I apologize. This is live, so you'll have to bear with live TV and all the things that come with that. So I'm going to press my, oh, I see. There I am.
Yes, and so we're streaming on Zoom. If you go to our Facebook event page, it's called How to Transfer Your Tax Base. You can also join via Zoom by clicking the link there. If you need help too, just email our info@caleorealestate.com email and we'll send you that link really fast. But for those of you that are joining us, we do have a slide deck that we're sharing on Zoom. We can also send it to you after the fact. But the purpose of today's live stream is really to provide and equip you with the information that if you are considering selling your home and purchasing another home, that you understand that there's something called Proposition 19 that you may be able to utilize.
Yes.
And we really do appreciate you joining us. Again, this isn't, legal tax advice. I do have to give that general disclaimer. But it is, provided for informational purposes and shouldn't be relied upon in specific situations. So
I think I got the Zoom link, and I'm gonna in my chat. So I clicked it there if you want to join us there. But great. So let me go over to my slides. And Chessa, you covered the purpose of today's meeting. You covered the fact that we are only real estate advisors. We are not your accountant and so on and so forth. So we got that covered, and we'll go on. So overview. If you are a senior, and what is a senior? Well, not a senior in high school or a senior in college, but actually by age 55 or older. So I guess I'm not that far away.
Yes.
But you might not feel like you're a senior if you're 55 or over. But for the purposes of today's discussion, for Proposition 19 that we're talking about, if you're 55 or older and you're looking to sell and move to an assisted living, which wouldn't necessarily apply. Actually, I don't know if assisted living applies even in your 70s. It's kind of questionable if assisted living is necessary. But if you're selling and moving to assisted living, or if you're selling and you want to rent for a while, sell and buy a smaller. Oh, these are different solutions. Trying to accomplish different solutions for if you're trying to sell and then purchase and take your property tax base with you.
Yeah, so if you're a senior, a lot of times you're trying to fix a solution, and lots of times you're trying to find a way to have a more affordable monthly payment, an affordable place to live. Sometimes that means that you are selling and you want to buy a smaller home. Sometimes it actually means you want to sell and buy a bigger home, and you're trying to find a home that maybe has an ADU, a mother-in-law's quarters. It has some place where you can have other, maybe it's your kids, maybe it's grandkids, but it's other people living with you. So it doesn't always mean that you're trying to sell and actually downsize. A lot of people who actually end up selling end up wanting to find a bigger home. And what's neat about this conversation about Prop 19 is we actually have several clients in the past year who have actually taken advantage of this and are kind of our success stories for people that, listed with a Kaleo agent. They sold, they bought with a Kaleo agent, and they were able to take that tax base with them.
Oh, you got a live caller calling in right now. Let's see if this live caller has a question. Oh, I'm inside the Zoom, so I'm going to join the Zoom here. And
Prop 19, if you haven't heard of it, it was actually passed in November of 2020.
Yep.
It took effect in 2021. There were actually two effective dates. One was in February, having to do with intergenerational transfers. And then the other effective date was in April, and that one had to do with transferring the tax basis. So it is relatively new, and before Prop 19, we had something called Prop 60 and Prop 90 that you may be aware of, that had to do with more inter-county and inside of a county transfers of tax bases. So.
Yeah, so one of the dilemmas when you're looking to have the producers telling me something, we've got applause up, we got laughter up. Okay, no, so we're good. So we have, so one of the dilemmas is when you are on a more fixed income and you're thinking about switching properties. Now, if you bought your property in 1977, you might have paid like $30,000, $40,000 for your property, or even less in some areas. Your property today might be worth $1 million. You're thinking, well, gosh, yeah, that's great. But if I sell my property, I have to give up my property tax. So my original property tax maybe being 1.25% of what the value of the property was at that time. Proposition 13 meant that it only can go up 2% year over year for that original tax base. It's a real disincentive to move. So Prop 60, Prop 90, which Chester was mentioning, existed before, and it had rules. Those rules are out the window, so I won't get into the rules that it had. But essentially, it was a solution for people on a fixed income to be able to sell their property and to buy something else without having to give up that tax base, that important tax base that they wanted to keep. So Prop 19 allows you to do this. You have bought a property a long time ago. You've got property taxes annually. Let's say they're a couple $1,000s. Great. I can sell my house, buy a bigger one. I don't want a $12,000 annual tax bill for my property. Prop 19 affords you to be able to make the move to that new property, keep your tax base, and it can happen anywhere in the state of California. And it's irrespective to the price. In other words, you don't have to buy for less, you can buy for more. That might be something that makes sense. You know, you buy and it's a little bit more because it's close to family, grandchildren, or you know, your just your children in general. You want to be near them, and the area they live in is expensive. You buy a home, it costs more than the home that you've sold. You not only take your tax base with you, but you can also maybe put all that money down, get a reverse mortgage, or get a very small mortgage. But the point is, your tax base gets preserved, and it could be anywhere in the state of California. Counties, doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be within the same county.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in the same county. And so Prop 19 was kind of one of those things that it happened during the pandemic. You know, 2020 was busy. It was passed in the last couple months. 2021, you know, that was a long year as well. And so it's not something that you might not know anybody that has actually used Prop 19, but it is neat because we're going to go through kind of the general overview of Prop 19, some Q&As of, you know, can you, like, let's say, can you do this for a rental property? Does it have to be your primary residence? Or questions about, you know, where can you take it? Is this automatic? We'll go into some of those questions. But I did just want to read kind of the general blurb that is Prop 19.
Yeah, and this is as of April 1st, 2021. And Chessa's going to go down the list, the specific language regarding the Prop 19. So go ahead, Chessa.
Yes, so this is for homeowners who are over 55, severely disabled, or victims of wildfire or natural disasters, may transfer their property tax base of their existing home to a new home anywhere in California without price restriction. And this means that you can move anywhere in California. So it is, you know, you could be LA County to San Diego County, and it removes location restrictions. So that's removing the restrictions that used to be with Proposition 60 and 90. You can move regardless of price. So it removes the price restriction on property tax transfers that allows the transfer of a property tax base of an existing home to a new home regardless of price. And there is the caveat that there is an adjustment upward on your property tax base if the replacement property is of greater value, but you can still actually do the transfer. And you can actually transfer the low property tax base of your original home to a new home up to 3 times. Up to
3 times. So that means that you get 3 lives, like video games, you know, and you get 3 lives before the game is over. So Prop 19, they give you 3 times.
3 times.
3 times. You get
transfer.
it right, and then no more. Then the game's over. But hopefully you get it right the first or second time, right? But that's a good provision because life happens and things change.
And again, otherwise, if it was, you know, maybe you could only do it one time, you know, maybe you just turned 55 and you're thinking, well, I don't want to use that card because I might need to move a couple more times in the next 20 years or so.
Yeah. So, I mean, and calculating the tax base when you buy a home that's more expensive. Now, you know, if you bought a home, you sold your home for $1 million, and then the place you're going, it's $1.2 million, right? $1.2 million. The difference would be the $200,000 higher than what you sold for. That's going to be reassessed. But the original base gets to stay at that original amount. So again, if that happened to be a couple $1,000s, you bought a $1.2 million home, well, you can rest assured that if you sold for $1 million, $2,000, that's your base tax for that $1 million. And then you'd have a tax on the additional portion. So regarding the rules to that, getting into the technical details, which Chessa's excellent at this, so we're going to have her give us the answer, the 2 rules, how to determine the tax basis of the new property. So pay close attention. We'll give you time to get your pencil and a calculator out. This is very technical, so
yes,
go ahead, Chessa.
But I think with all the technicalities, again, it's a way to potentially get a lower tax base. These aren't, you know, exact figures, especially depending on what the value of your home is. We don't know what you originally purchased it for or anything like this. But the 2 general rules are: 1, if the replacement property is of equal or lesser value to the original primary residence, then the taxable value of the replacement property remains the same as the original primary residence. So that's saying if, you know,
sold for
it's
$1
equal
million,
or lesser.
sold for $1 million, bought for $1 million or less.
Yes. Rule number 2, if the replacement property is of greater value than the taxable value of the replacement property, will be adjusted by adding the difference in sales price, technically the full cash value, to the taxable value of the original primary residence. And so here's kind of a sample calculation. I know as we're saying it all, it might be, you know, unless you're an auditory processor, this is probably a lot to kind of be calculating.
Or if you were on our Zoom, you could see our slide, yes.
Yes, if you're on our Zoom call, you can see our slides. But so a sample calculation of the tax basis for a replacement property with a greater value than the original primary residence. So if your original primary residence taxable value was $400,000, you sold your original primary residence for $900,000, you bought for $1 million. Again, we had 400 was your original home's taxable value. You sold it for 900,000. You bought a replacement property at $1 million. Well, the difference between the sales price of your original primary residence and your replacement property is that 900 to $1 million, which is $100,000. So the taxable value for your replacement property is the 400,000, which would be your original taxable value, plus the 100,000, which was the difference. So again, it's a little bit, you know, hearing it doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense. And so what we really want to talk about is kind of the scenarios of, you know, going into a little bit of the Q&A, because again, a lot of this is better worked out on a piece of paper and kind of looking at it.
Absolutely.
And not going through all the different options of hypotheticals.
And again, it just addresses the situation where the individual is 55 and older, has owned their home for a very, very long time and has a very, very low tax base. And this is providing a solution. Again, legislation passed Proposition 19, I should say just legislation, but the voters passed it because it's proposition. The voters passed Proposition 19, and April 1st last year, 2021, it became law, and this is what we're sharing with you. So this is only a year old, since it's come into our lives.
So kind of, I guess, first question, James, is do I have to sell my primary residence? So if I've been living here, you know, for 50 years, can I just, you know, make it a rental property and buy a replacement property and take my tax base there? Or do I have to sell my original property?
Yeah, so can you make your original property a rental property? And that's a hard no. Okay, so that's a no. You can't do that. You have to sell your primary residence in order to take that tax base with you to your new primary residence. Yes. So that's an easy one, right? So you can't finagle it. You can't be like, well, hey, you know, can I get part of this? No, the condition for it means you got to sell.
Okay.
Means you got to sell.
So then kind of next question is,